Alright, I guess we're gonna do this. Now, Steve tackled this, and due to the fact that the issue she's talking about in regards of suicide does hit kind of close to home for me personally, I decided just to say fuck it and just dive bomb the fuck in there. So I guess let me adjust my volume really quick. Alright, here we go. I'm surprised that dog is still alive. I mean, I'm glad it is. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also worried this animal is literally starving every other day because part of it, like, there are certain parts where its limbs kind of look emaciated, even if its body doesn't. It seems like it's struggling a great deal. Just film a random pigeon.
So I just heard in the news that the number of suicides in the United States went up last year.
Well, the reason it went up last year is because the cost of living has risen significantly to the point where a lot of people that were just barely towing the poverty line were basically facing eviction from their apartments. A lot of these people might have been completely unable to make ends meet on account of the cost of living having risen and account of inflation going up almost 35% in some states. And that's if you don't count like suicides from war veterans with PTSD, people struggling from severe depression as a result of like really bad separations or divorces. If you don't count people that have like just decided to do it after finally having hit rock bottom either from an alcoholic binge or things like that, like that's probably why suicide's gone up, is because a lot of people just can't survive anymore on whatever the fuck they're making. So they've probably just decided to say fuck it and bite the big bazooka. Even if I don't agree with their method, you could at least understand why they might have done what they did. Even if it's really just the worst solution to the problem because of how final it is compared to just trying to hump it until it's over with.
Now, many of you know that when people die, it doesn't exactly always make me feel sad if I know that they are people who paid for the murder of innocent animals.
So you're saying that a human being deserves to commit suicide because they ate meat at some point in time? Can you just imagine that for a minute? Can you imagine being so fucking deranged that someone eats a ham sandwich at school like 35 years ago, for example, and then when they're like 47, they find out that their wife has been sleeping with their neighbor, they find out their kids aren't theirs, they find out their wife is leaving them, they find out their job just fired them, and they decide to put a gun in their mouth and blow the back of their own head across the fucking wall. And for some reason, this person just deserves to go through all of that because they ate a ham fucking sandwich at one point. Right. So the anguish this person goes through is completely their fault, but not the fault of the people who fucked them over. And then they deserved it because where they meet at some fucking point. I don't get why you're showing pictures of a Chinese meat market with hanging dogs. It doesn't particularly sound very good. More importantly, why does she get away with putting images like that up? But if I tell someone to go fuck themselves in a response video, I potentially risk getting YouTube up my ass. So I'm confused about how that works. A lot of those dogs probably ate meat at one point too, so I guess you yourself should probably not pity those dogs because the dogs are the same kinds of things that you label other people as.
If people
Just saying.
were hurting cats and dogs by the billions, you'd feel exactly the same way as I do.
Well, the difference is that when the animals are literally raised and ethically treated up until the point to where they're ready to be butchered and packaged and sent off to a meat packer, that is not the same thing as someone seeing an animal on the street and then just kicking it and throwing it and then skinning it and boiling it and eating it. because one of these animals was made specifically with the purpose of being food. The other one was just abused blatantly because probably the person that did it was incredibly mentally fucked up.
Problem is that you're speciesist and I'm not.
Translation: you eat meat and I don't, and I'm gonna use this fucking topic as a way to get on my soapbox and screech at everyone for not being a fucking pussy who wants to stuff leaves up their own ass constantly. Now, there are plenty of people that eat a vegan diet that chose it because they had health concerns and ethical concerns about how animals are treated and about how it might affect their health if they don't. Good for them. Entirely their business. And I respect those people because they're not walking up and saying, eat vegan, eat vegan, eat vegan, or you're a murderer. Like all the crazy motherfuckers that used to do that shit back in like early days of YouTube where they just lose their shit at everyone that ate meat. They'd basically do the whole bullshit that PETA does where they throw red paint on the models that wear fur on the runway. And the only difference between them and those people is that those people would actually have the balls to go up and do that to someone, whereas the other people just constantly piss and moan about what people eat or dress. But the thing is, though, this is just basically let me exploit the topic because it's attention. And speciesism isn't a real thing. It's something that you literally make up because you think that if you make up a word for everything you don't like, it's the same thing as it actually being valid. No, it's not.
You eat animals, you wear them, you exploit them, you pay for them to be incarcerated, kidnapped. And vegans, they don't.
Oh no, the moral platitude about whether or not someone eats meat. Well, here's the thing. Do you care about other humans that are kidnapped and sold into sex trafficking? No, you don't. You don't. Because I guarantee a lot of those young women or young men or those kids probably ate meat. So you're going to treat them like they deserve whatever happens to them because they ate meat. I can't imagine being such an empty, soulless husk of a human being that your only purpose to exist is just to screech at people over something retarded and then try to act like your bullshit attempt at activism is the same thing as actually having a valid concern. You know, if you didn't need to exploit awful shit to make people see your message, it'd be a lot more digestible, so to speak. But it's not. Because your entire message is basically feel guilty for every thing that other people do, and if not, I'll just belittle you for what other people do because you happen to not take really big issue with it, even if you don't agree with a lot of the practices in factory farming. Even if you have a lot of ethical concerns about the way the animals are treated, the fact that you still eat the meat means that you're just as bad as the person walking up to the cow and putting the fucking bolt puncher to its head. I mean, honestly, it's quick, it's instant. It's not like they're sitting there hacking the animal's limbs off while it's still alive. I mean, we could do that, but we don't because there are ethics involved, even if it's still a practice that you particularly don't like.
It's not that we think that we're better than you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it fucking is. Yeah, it is. You do think you're better than other people, though, because, well, your species is. I'm not. No, you're literally just making up words so that you feel superior to people that don't share your principles. There are people that may agree with you. Oh, but I can't real quick, sorry. There are people that may agree with you about factory farming. That may agree about how unethical some of it is and how visceral some of it can really be. And about how the animals should be treated more humanely. But then, where you lose people is where you start trying to compare animals being killed and eaten for food. And you try to compare that to things like homicide or rape or assassinations, which are not the same because animals don't possess the capacity to understand those things. Except dolphins. Dolphins and primates seem to be the only animals that are actually capable of understanding what it means to kill for pleasure or kill for personal gain, aside from just surviving. Aside from that, other animals don't really process or comprehend the nature of such activities. But yeah, you are trying to make yourself seem like you're better than people because you're basically saying, you eat me, I don't, therefore you're wrong.
It's just that we've had the courage to watch the documentaries that you refuse to watch, so you really just don't understand what you're paying for.
No, it's just the fact that a lot of those documentaries are fucking propaganda cooked up by organizations like PETA because they basically go to the places that have like the worst standards when it comes down to hygiene and ethics. Basically saying that these places are representative of every place in the world, depending upon how they treat animals. If you saw how someone treats one of those Kobe cows, for example, you'd actually be surprised how well those cows are treated before they're put down and butchered. Those cows live better than most middle class American citizens, let's be honest. They get fed incredibly highly nutritious grain. They basically get treated like kings until they're killed. Life for them is the primrose path until they're killed. As opposed to actual human beings who have to struggle and scrape to get by. But the problem is a lot of those documentaries do resort to using places that are known for having poor ethics and poor hygiene. And they like to prop that up as the case study for every place that factory farms or works in the meatpacking industry or the poultry industry or the dairy industry. When the reality is a lot of the things they say are not entirely representative of those industries because they usually pick the worst of the worst to be the figurehead. Mainly just so they can use it to propagandize and prop themselves up and say, we are above this, therefore we're right.
Do you know what speciesism is?
It's a made-up word people like you use to try to portray human beings as indifferent to the suffering of other creatures simply because they don't pace and cry every time they see a cow get eaten in cheeseburgers. But proceed.
The first form of racism that's taught.
No, it's not. Because racism means that you're hating someone because they're a different color or from a different part of the planet. That's not the same thing as simply saying, well, that's a pig and pigs go in sandwiches. Or on your stove. Or in your oven. Ironic, the whole pig and oven thing is ripe for Holocaust jokes, but I'm not going to make any. They'd burn too easily.
And unfortunately, our parents shoved corpses down our throats.
Not really, they put hunks of meat down your throat. It's not really a corpse, because a corpse implies the animal has literally just been killed, and they're just stuffing the entire animal or bits of the animal into your mouth without any sort of processing or cleaning or anything like that. That's pretty misdirecting language, ma'am.
Without us ever consenting when we were small. And this is something that I'm working to change.
Yeah, so you're working to make it so that a child can die of malnutrition, so that way their parents will go your hippy-dippy guru way and start starving their children intentionally, believing their children will be more healthy, by starving them of the vital protein they need to survive. Fan-fucking-tastic idea. I'll tell you what, while we're at it, why don't we just go up to people that are struggling to survive on what little bit of food they can scrape together and taking that food away because it's not vegan too?
I think that we have a right to maintain our vegan virginity. That is to say, we have a responsibility when it comes to the younger generation.
So what's the vegan? What is vegan virginity? What's gonna happen? Like no man meat, only carrots go in there? I mean, really, like what's the argument there?
To feed them any corpses because they just can't consent to it.
The difference between food is that you're being fed to keep yourself alive. That's not the same thing as someone making an active choice to drink or smoke or gamble or have sex. And the fact that you're trying to make eating food on par with those four facets of someone's life as an adulthood is ridiculous. It's a very big reach. And even you know that you're reaching so hard at that point, you're going to break your back trying to stretch.
Imagine if you are able to grow up and at the age of 18, you then can make up your own mind about what you put in.
Yeah, if you've been vegan since birth, you'd be fucking dead. Let's be honest. If you didn't have anything with like milk in it, and it's like, let's be honest. If you're vegan and you've been breastfed, guess what? You're not vegan because you drank milk from your mother, and your mother has a face. At least she should, unless she's been the victim of a tragic chimp attack. So you're not vegan if you've been breastfed as a child, so you can scratch that off. If you've ever had anything with milk in it, whether it be a shake or a coffee, you can scratch that off. If you've had anything with eggs in it, including gelato, you can scratch that off. Literally, the only way for someone to be vegan since birth is if someone's literally just bouncing around doing everything they can to dodge anything with animal products in it, which would be a bitch and a half to do as a small child. Honestly, being vegan as a small child without being given the opportunity to learn whether or not it's healthy for you sounds like a sophisticated form of child abuse conducted by the parent. It's like, sorry, she can't have that. It's not vegan. Well, your kid's like 6 pounds as a 10-year-old. I'm surprised the kid's not fucking dead. Well, that's very hurtful of you to say. Oh, look, she just threw up again for the third time today because I've been stuffing lentils down her throat. But remember, I'm a good parent. These are the same kind of people that are almost as bad as that, like the Frankie Ruth bitch, whatever the fuck her name is, the 8 pastors bitch.
Your body. But when you're little, your parents make sure that you are safe and pure and clean and that there are no corpses in there.
Here's the thing. A parent's job is to make sure that you're healthy and strong. That does not mean starve you of nutrients until you're almost dead. There's no such thing as vegan baby food, for example. Do you want to know why? It's because vegan baby food would just be fucking cyanide. Because, by the time you're fed, you're dead. Guess what? You were vegan from birth until death, all 2.5 years of it, because mom and dad just kept stuffing shit down your throat that wasn't nourishing you properly. Why not just wait for someone to actually be old enough to actually learn about the health risks of one diet over another? Instead of just straight up saying, you're going to be vegan now because I'd rather have you die of malnutrition than eat an animal. I would love to see people like you trying to survive in the wild with literally no fucking protein.
They have put there. Later on, obviously, you can make up your own mind, and hopefully by then you'll realize, hey, I'm a healthy, happy vegan. And
there's no such thing as a healthy, happy vegan if you're under the age of 18. Or if you're not a teenager. Because let's be honest, like, the primary growth years of a human being are between the ages of like 2 and 3 when it comes down to their mental health, their muscle growth, everything. When it comes down to their learning and their body, how their body metabolizes things. When you're barely getting enough nutrients to stay alive, let alone function, you're gonna fucking start going malnourishment. You're gonna start dying. Your muscles are gonna start breaking themselves down. You're gonna look like what someone looks like if they were going through chemotherapy at 5. And the worst part is the parents will be the ones having done it to them. People that should trust them the most are the ones killing them the most.
You won't end up eating any animals.
I don't believe that at all, because if someone's a vegan since birth, they're probably going to make it about 2 years, if that. That's if they survive all the prenatal fucking abuse that comes with not getting proper nutrition.
Now, I can already picture all of you people out there who are saying that, what about lions? But, you're not a lion. And
maybe not, but we still have canine teeth. We still have serrated teeth in our own mouths. The fact that we haven't evolved flat teeth in every part of our mouth suggests that we don't need to be specifically vegan. Same thing with our cousins, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans. They all have incredibly prominent canine teeth. Our species and all of our cousins that are alive today are all omnivorous. Even evolutionary dead ends like the chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas are omnivores. And the fact that we are the dominant species on this planet and we ourselves are still omnivorous, in terms of how our biology works, shows that we're not meant to be vegan. Why do you think that our appendix is a useless vestigial organ now? It's because we've evolved past being vegan or herbivores, because our bodies evolved to need to take in more nutrients because there was a lot more available for our primitive ancestors.
And I can also picture all of you saying, what about the people up north? Aren't you being racist or somehow a colonist or whatever? Like, I'm not talking about people who have no choice. I'm talking about you. You have a choice. You have moral agency.
I have a choice, and I decide to say fuck you. I'm gonna eat what I want, and if you want to eat what you want, that's fine too. Here's the thing: if you say I am vegan because I think it's healthy, and I should be this way because I've decided that it's healthy for me, that's fine. But when you say you should be vegan because I think it's healthy for you, I'm gonna tell you to mind your own fucking business and get the fuck off my table. I'm trying to enjoy my cheeseburger in peace.
Agency. You can make the decision to be kind-hearted, to buy.
I'm kind to most animals by default. I just don't see the point in trying to pat a cow on the head when I know for a fact that head's gonna have an 8-inch bolt through it in about 4 months. Here's the thing, people that have seen me around cats and dogs knows that I'm an animal person, but that does not mean that I weep every time I think about eating a piece of bacon. I thank the animal for the fact that it was kind enough to allow itself to be eaten instead of just immediately fleeing and running away from the bolt.
Lentils, beans, tofu.
Yeah, you mean all that nasty shit that literally tastes like someone just crapped it into a fucking can? I mean, here's the thing, there are good beans, yeah, but the beans are not really good by themselves. You need something to go with it. You need stock, you need meat, you need vegetables. You need all different kinds of stuff. You need to make an actual stew or a stock out of it, otherwise they don't really have much to taste. There are some vegan foods that taste quite good, but the problem is they're also incredibly expensive. Yeah, do you guys want to buy some more organic vegan food? It's only like, what, 15, 20 bucks? As opposed to like a $5 pack of ham.
Everything in the grocery store except the corpses and anything stolen from animals.
It's not really stolen if the animal doesn't really possess the capacity to actually own it and put it away somewhere where it cannot be taken away.
Does it make me see red when I find out that people are hurting animals? Of course it does. But does it make me happy to find out that the suicide rate has gone up? No, it really doesn't.
You openly just said a moment ago that you didn't care if the people that killed themselves ate meat. Like, you literally said that the suicide of someone that eats meat is irrelevant to you because they ate meat. So that means that if a 5-year-old just kills themselves because something fucking horrendous happens, I'm not going to mention what happened to them for the sake of not getting hit by guidelines, because I'm trying to be careful here. My warning just expired, so I'm trying not to fucking put my fucking hand in the oven yet. But when a 5-year-old goes through like horrendous CSA and they decide that they'd rather jump in front of a car than live another moment, feeling like the person that's been hurting them is going to hurt them again, you're saying that this 5-year-old deserves it. Why? Because they might have eaten bacon at some point for breakfast or had some scrambled eggs. And what about picky eaters, for example, who only eat specific things? People on the autism spectrum, for example, Steve brought that up. It's a pretty relevant point. There are people who have like very specific dietary interests and dietary choices, and there are very specific things that some people might eat because it's a habit for them. It's a part of their ritual, so to speak. Are you saying that the person that eats this way should be judged and then said that they're a bad person and that they deserve to die because they ate meat? I mean, I would love to see you say this shit to like a crocodile or a bunch of Komodo dragons. I think it'd be funny watching these incredibly deadly, fucking venomous, fucking varanid lizards just basically start swarming your ass as you try to lecture them about why they can't eat that water buffalo they just tore down.
They feel really sad. Why, you might ask? Well, because these are all people who had the potential to care. Maybe many of them didn't even know what happens to the animals. Or maybe they did. Maybe that's exactly why they took their own lives.
No, they killed themselves probably because they had depression or they were going through a horrific moment in their life when they finally decided to say, fuck it, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And the problem is a lot of these people felt like they had no other option when there might not have needed to be such a final solution. Like, when someone chooses to kill themselves, it's not because they, oh my god, I ate an animal, boom, blows his own fucking head off. Like, no, it's usually like, Like, people don't go around Kurt Cobaining themselves just because they've had a cheeseburger at some point. A lot of the times, like I said, it's usually people that have had, like, everything in their life has just gone to shit for them, like, almost all at once, and they can't take it. And then there are some people that are, like, chronically depressed or seasonally depressed, where something horrific happened to them, and depending upon what time of year it is, if it's around that time of year the event happens, they will feel spikes in those emotional strains that they feel, where they start contemplating dragging a chair across the garage to hang themselves, or trying to open a packet of razor blades. Well, not right away, struggling with the soul of fame a little bit. Shit, it's always something. But yeah, it's like, people don't kill themselves over eating meat. That's probably one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard. He killed himself because he ate bacon. Out of all the reasons to kill oneself, that seems like one of the biggest non-reasons a person could ever think of, and that's really, really scraping the bottom.
There are many people right now who are suffering from dystopia, the anguish of being vegan in a non-vegan world.
Here's the thing. It's not dystopia. Do you want to know why? It's because most people that are vegan are not going to get accosted by people that are not vegan. Most people that are not vegan don't give a shit. It's only when you start saying shit like this, where you start trying to act like suicide is deserved because people don't eat meat. Like, people eat meat, therefore they deserve to end themselves. People eat vegan food, so they're better than the people that don't eat vegan food. No. It's not dystopia, because you're not being persecuted and stopped from having your opinion or eating what you want or working where you want or living where you want. People just don't agree with your views, and they have the right to admonish and criticize and disagree with them. They have the right to eat whatever they see fit. That's not the same thing as people like you, or Vegan Gains, or Freely, or Onion Boy, back when he was relevant, to try to cling to this notion that everyone's out to get you. Because people are not out to get you. Sorry to take a sip, my throat was getting raw. But they're not out to get you. They just don't see things your way and therefore don't feel it's necessary to eat what you eat. It's not a religion. Although you sure as fuck treat it like one. Like, the weird thing is, people like you treat veganism like people in the Middle East, like the radical fundamentalists teach Islam. Where you treat it like it's the only way or you're going to face ramifications. It's the same thing with those wet bastards, church lunatics, and the Bible Belt in the US. You're treating veganism like it's a religion, and it's honestly not a healthy way to look at things. Because when you start deciding that other people's lives are not worthy just because of what they eat, you're making excuses for other atrocities.
It can be excruciatingly painful when you find out how zombie-like everyone around you is.
Well, here's the thing. My idea of a zombie is like some mindless thing that just attacks every other living thing on the planet to eat it while it's still alive, to spread the infection and make another zombie. That's not the same thing as, oh, do you see that dude over there having a gyro filled with fucking lamb in it? That guy must be a mindless brain-eating corpse. Oh yeah, sure. Whatever.
When even your friends and family continue to hurt animals, even when you beg them to stop.
So basically, you're the kind of asshole that walks up to their family members and starts browbeating them over what they eat. You must be really fun at Christmas and Thanksgiving. Someone brings a ham and you go into a full-on mental breakdown. You see a turkey and you start weeping for the bird because I know it had such a rich and meaningful existence before it was killed on the farm.
Students tell me all the time how agonizing it is when they find out that their parents are actually not as kind as they thought they would be. So what can we do to...
Okay, let me guess. You're convincing these dumbass, gullible fucking kids that their parents are murderous sociopaths because they eat steaks. Like, if I found out my kid was in your class, I'd pull them the fuck out of that school. And it's not because the kid's being taught to question the parental authority. It's because the kid is essentially being taught that they can malnourish themselves and starve themselves for the sake of an animal or two, and then they're going to feel like they're doing the right thing, even if they're actively killing themselves trying.
Help the younger generation to feel like they matter.
Do you want to know how you do that? by not guilt tripping them to feeling like shit over what they ate, by encouraging them in themselves and trying to encourage their creativity and their questioning of everything, as opposed to this shit where you're feeding them a fucking doctrine and saying, believe me, bro, I totes know what's right for you, even though I'm actively encouraging you to malnourish yourself and not tell mom and dad that you're skipping meals because they're not vegan. But remember, I'm totes a teacher and I totes know what's right for you. Like, I know you're vomiting every other day because you can't keep what you're being fed down, because your body's slowly breaking down. But remember, I know what's right for you, bro.
Like they're important. Like we care about them.
Do you want to know how you do that? By just genuinely encouraging them as a person, regardless of what they eat. But you don't care about that because you see these people as an impediment to your fucking bullshit if they're not a dumbass, gullible idiot.
Like we don't want them to hurt themselves. Having spent a lot of time on social media and
Too much time, many of us might say.
seen how vegan phobic people are,
It's not vegan phobia to disagree with your views. You can eat whatever the fuck you want, but don't tell me I have to do the same because it's a dick move.
but then after having looked at their accounts, like closely, and seeing often that they seem like really sad people, just desperate for some sort of attention.
Please tell me more about attention craving crazy old lady that's constantly trying to make up horrible fucking videos to justify atrocities humankind commits upon itself or each other, so you can sit there and bitch about whether or not someone eats a chicken. Please tell me more about attention craving person who obviously does this shit for views. There's a reason there's only 54 likes, it's because every other motherfucker on the planet knew this shit is nonsense.
You see them hugging their cats and playing with their guinea pigs and their gerbils, and they clearly don't want to hurt animals. But then
The difference is these animals are their pets, and they view these animals as their family because of the fact that they're pets. That is not the same thing. Oh, turn on my alarm as eating a fucking cow.
they must feel completely lost. I mean, it does take some sort of bravery to be vegan in this non-vegan world.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't take bravery to be a pious egomaniac who gets up on a soapbox and bitches about what other people eat. It's not brave. It's just bullshit self-aggrandization. It's like, see, I'm saving the world because I'm a vegan. All of you are shit. Because you decided to not be vegan, you are shit. No. It's basically just bullshit, self-filleting nonsense. When you're done going down on yourself for what the fuck you eat, maybe then you realize that everyone else doesn't really care what you eat, and therefore doesn't see the point in trying to lecture you about it as you do them. What's that old saying? Like, don't be throwing stones in a glass house, especially if you're still in the middle of it.
So how can we help them? Well, one of the things that I always try to do is to remind people that they matter and that the animals definitely need them. Even if you're not fully vegan yet, you can start to do animal rights activism right here on TikTok and on YouTube. You don't have to be a full-out vegan in order to start doing vegan animal rights activism.
Well, here's the thing though, vegan animal rights activism implies that it's done specifically by vegans in the name of veganism. So why the fuck would someone that's an omnivore or a vegetarian really see the point in getting involved in a cause that doesn't really have anything to do with them?
On YouTube or TikTok, you can simply be honest with people. I mean, just tell them that you saw my channel. Tell them that you don't want to hurt animals and that you want to start to be vegan. Be honest.
So tell them that you're gonna start pontificating and espousing the same dumbass talking points that someone does when their brain is literally shriveling inside of their skull from a lack of proper nutrition. Okay.
Honest about it. Film your journey. Film your times when you're feeling weak.
I might just start filming footage of someone slicing ham at an Arby's and post it and send it to your ass just to make fun of you. And it's not that I view the animal's death as humorous. I just want to see the level of crazy that will happen when your head just fucking explodes when you see roast beef being sliced at an Arby's. Animal suffering. Fuck off. Fuck off.
Film yourself crying when you see the animals suffering, and film yourself crying when you see people around you eating them, and how...
Yeah, film yourself having a mental breakdown at the fucking McDonald's. Yeah, that's totally not a way to get carted into the fucking psych ward. Cheeseburgers everywhere. Ah, just oh, fucking shit. Yeah, excellent call that'd be.
It's complex.
No,
you
it's
can even
not.
film yourself looking right at the camera and saying, look, my friends are all over there at McDonald's eating a burger, and you can tell people that you really want to go too because you miss the taste and you miss your friends, you know?
But you can't be their friend anymore because they think you're a self-righteous asshole that they can't fucking stand. It's like, well, I had friends, but then I became vegan and they stopped talking to me. Like, no, what happened is you became a self-righteous asshole who would constantly aggrandize themselves by pretending they were better than their own fucking friends. And they decided to say, fuck Timmy, we're not putting up with them anymore.
My point is that no matter what stage you're at, we need you on this planet to be alive. We don't want people to hurt themselves. We want...
Unless you eat meat, in which case she'll gladly dance on your tombstone while filming herself, walking around like a fucking moron, babbling about nothing.
I want you to help us to save the animals, and also to save yourself.
Animals don't need us to save them. They've been surviving on their own for millions of years. Let me just quote something from Old Man George. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. The planet is not going anywhere. We are. And please, someone save the world from environmentalists.
So think about it. Thanks for being here. Stay alive. I'll see you in the next video.
No, you won't. Everyone is born with a vegan heart. You never wanted to hurt you. You never wanted you to hurt animals. No, here's the thing. It's not a vegan heart because vegans seemingly, and I'm not saying all, there are definitely vegans out there that are like really like, eat what you want, I don't give a shit, but I just personally choose not to eat meat. That's fine. Eat what you want. But the problem is, like, whenever one vegan like that exists, there's like 5 of you that are incredibly militant assholes that harass people. You're the same kind of person that if you see a little kid eating an ice cream cone, excuse me, is that a vegan ice cream cone? What? Is that a vegan ice cream cone? I don't think so. Smacks it out of their fucking hand. And then here, have this, just like a fucking can of lentils with a spoon in it. That's better than the ice cream. Okay, so you ruined this kid's ice cream because they were eating ice cream. You were literally just harassed and assaulted a 5-year-old. This is why I can't stand people like you, and this is why no one ever should. And I do find it kind of shitty they try to exploit suicide just for the purpose of saying, well, I'm not speciesist. Well, of course not. You're batshit crazy. There's a difference, I guess. Is that only batshit crazy people create a term so they can say that they're better than other people for having created the term and utilizing it against someone. All I'm going to say is this video was cringe. I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger now out of spite. Everyone have a nice day.